Apple completely shocked the tech industry back in 2020 with the release of their new M1 MacBook Air, which instantly became the best value laptop you could buy thanks to its $1,000 price tag and the game-changing M1 chip, which is still very powerful to this day. Now on the flip side, in 2023, Apple hit us with the news that their Mac sales in the first quarter are down 40% compared to last year, the worst drop in 23 years. Now, while there are multiple reasons for this, like a slowing down economy, one thing is for certain: Apple's M2 Macs are not selling as well as they hoped, and I think it's got something to do with how good the M1 MacBook Air was and still is today. So in this video, I'm gonna explain what caused the failure of Apple's redesigned M2 MacBook Air, as well as how the M1 model fares in 2023, especially with the news of the new M3 model coming in the fall. So let's get started. In terms of what made the original M1 MacBook Air so special, there were three fundamental aspects. The first one was the price being only $999, which had a fairly low barrier to entry for the common student or person needing a reliable and high quality laptop. And the MacBook Air was just that, thanks to the switch to an Apple Silicon chip, which greatly improved reliability alongside the metal build quality, excellent keyboard, trackpad, and display. The second aspect was the fact that for only $1,000, you're getting a huge jump in performance compared to the previous Intel chip, and both single and multi-core performance, impacting everything from web browser snappiness to productivity work. In some apps, it even outperformed the higher-end MacBook Pros with Intel chips, and it had just enough performance to actually run professional apps quite well. The third aspect was everything else the Apple Silicon chip brought to the MacBook Air, specifically features like Instant On, which is a game changer compared to previous Intel models that took some time to wake up from sleep. Another big one was the Fanless Design, which was mind-blowing considering the high amount of performance, meaning you get a completely silent experience no matter what. And what makes it even better is that no fans means no dust, clogging the fans and heat sinks over time, which would lead to unexplained overheating and loud fan issues on previous Intel MacBooks. But not with the new M1 MacBook Air, basically making it much more reliable over the long term. And then going even further, the most impressive upgrade with the M1 chip was the battery life, which was mind-blowing considering everything else that improved, like the performance, being over 4 times faster than the previous Intel model in terms of gaming performance, and over 3 times faster in terms of the CPU. And the crazy thing was that Apple's 13-inch MacBook Pro was priced $300 higher, but only offering a couple of advantages like better battery life, an extra graphics core, a fan for cooling, and a touch bar that nobody liked anyway. We even modded our own MacBook Air with a thermal pad on the heatsink, and that made it even faster than the MacBook Pro in some cases. And over the next couple of years, every single Windows laptop we compared to the Air failed in terms of performance, value, and battery life. And now that we're in 2023, the M1 MacBook Air is now on sale on Amazon for only $800 brand new, continuing to be the best value laptop you can buy. So with all that said, it's easy to see why the M2 MacBook Air didn't sell so well, seeing as it had such large shoes to fill, and there's also the fact that anyone who bought the M1 was so satisfied with it that they saw no reason to upgrade to the M2 Air redesign. But it was actually Apple who shot themselves in the foot for a couple of different reasons. The first reason was the fact that they made the M1 way too good, especially in terms of the performance. In hindsight, Apple probably should have downclocked the original M1 chip just a little bit so that they could unleash that power in the M2 chip to make it look like a bigger upgrade. Because to be honest, the M2 chip just wasn't a big upgrade performance-wise compared to M1. At least not enough to get people to feel like they were missing out. The M1 was still more than good enough. Now, the second reason is that they actually downgraded different components of the M2 MacBook Air despite raising the price to $1,200. The biggest one is the fact that they switched from a dual NAND SSD chip configuration down to a single chip, which had various impacts to performance, including SSD speeds becoming up to 2 times slower. That by itself made transfer speeds slow down, but the worst part was that the base model only came with 8 gigs of RAM, which fills up very quickly. So what macOS does is it borrows storage space from the SSD and uses it as temporary RAM, which is a method called swap memory. However, since the SSD speed was drastically slowed down due to only having one NAND chip, the speed of the swap slows down as well. This basically caused the new M2 MacBook Air to be slower than the old M1 Air in various tasks whenever the 8 gigs of RAM is full, which only takes about 10 Chrome tabs to be open in the background. So whoever made the call at Apple to switch to just one NAND chip made a bad mistake, and they should have paid extra money to make sure they had 2 NAND chips. Now on top of that, since the MacBook Air is fanless, it heavily relies on the passive heatsink for cooling, and the M2 MacBook Air actually removed the physical large heatsink block entirely compared to the previous M1 Air, now relying on a thin graphene sheet for cooling. This basically caused the M2 chip to overheat faster than the M1 does. And then finally, the speakers actually got downgraded on the M2 Air compared to the M1, having toned down tweeters. So Apple made all of those downgrades while at the same time increasing the price by $200, and the worst part is that you can now find an M1 model on sale for $800. And that brings me back to the question of how the M1 Air fares in 2023. And the answer is honestly quite well. In my honest opinion, even though I know the M3 MacBook Air is coming around the corner in the fall, I know the price will once again be $1,200. And even though the M3 chip will be very fast and it'll improve battery life, I also know that $400 more is a lot to pay over the M1 model. So the question is, will those improvements be worth $400? Honestly, for regular people, no. The M1 is already very efficient and more than fast enough for the majority of people out there. It's very reliable, lightweight, and it still works great. Now for tech enthusiasts, I will definitely recommend they wait for the M3 Air because they're the ones who care about the little details, especially the awesome new redesign. But for those who can't wait for the M3 and you're okay paying a bit more money for the M2 model right now, I'll suggest that you should wait until June for Apple's 15-inch M2 MacBook Air model, which will be a great deal for the display size, and it's gonna have the best battery life out of any laptop ever. We already have confirmation from multiple sources like Mark Gurman, Ming-Chi Kuo, other Korean leakers, and even TSMC that the M3 chip will not be ready and coming to the 15-inch MacBook Air, so keep that in mind. So with all that said, even in 2023, the M1 Air is still the best bang for the buck laptop ever made at only $800, and it's an instant recommendation for anyone looking for a reliable and high quality laptop. Now, if you disagree with me, let me know down in the comment section below, but if you enjoyed it, click that circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.